Okay, so you had such a great gig as valet. I feel like you could have like done that forever, but you had the itch that you really wanted to wrestle. Where, like, what was sort of the progression of you as a valet into getting into the ring?
I think, wow, this is going to be an interesting thing. So like in all transparency, because I feel like if I'm completely being honest, I'm always working a little bit. Like that's where I get from Natty and just not just Natty, a lot of people, you know, and just like, okay, well, what we have this many seconds, this many minutes on Total Divas or on a .com or what is the narrative? What story do you want to tell? Yeah. And, the bottom line is Vince wanted me to wrestle. You know, and I knew what there was a reason why I wanted to wear suits and I wanted to talk on the mic. My favorite characters were, you know, I was inspired by Miss Elizabeth, Paul Heyman, Stephanie McMahon, Vicky, you know, these people that were like, could talk and carry segments and tell stories with, you know, essentially with words where then later we resolve the conflict in the ring. And that's what I loved. And Stephanie McMahon is one of my favorites, you know, because she did so
she's the best.
much, you know, from corporate to relationships, stories. And I knew that was my strength. And I'll never forget, Vince called us into the office. And this was after we had split up because he was adamant. He was like, you cannot be with Rusev anymore. When we started the We Want Lana chant started, he was like, that's it. You cannot, he's like, you have two choices. We can either do a relationship story or you're going to have to go back down to NXT to learn how to wrestle. And I was like, I'll do a relationship story. Like that's cool. Sure. And so then that started. And then, you know, a month and a half in, he brings Summer in. We had no idea. And Miro's like, why? Like, what's happening? Yeah. And he's like, well, we're going to have a match. And Miro didn't want me to wrestle. Like he's very, very old school. And then he marries me. God bless him. And
bless that sweet man.
He's very traditional. And also, he's just like, he gets worried. He doesn't want me to get hurt. And on top of it, he's like, you're so good at what you do. Why are you going to go try to, you know, Paige is coming. Paige just got up. Becky, Sasha, all those girls were about to come up. Yeah. And so it's like, I'm not going to be able to catch up with those people. And it's going to at least take 10 years or
it takes a long time. It honestly takes forever.
These girls have been wrestling for a long time and they're younger on top of it. I was like, okay, I'm fine with that. But like, I just think I'm great at this. Let me do what I'm great at versus like, I don't know if I'm going to catch up to these girls. Yeah. We had this conversation in the office and this is actually the first time saying this story. And I was just like, I just don't think I'm going to ever be that great. I want to be great at stuff, not good. Right. And he's like, no, this is a wrestling company. And he's like, you have to at the very least know how to bump. And he goes, you have to know how to resolve your conflict in the ring, and your conflict is Summer, and you're going to resolve it in the ring. And that was that. You know, and Miro didn't say anything else. And I was like, okay. And you're right. This is a wrestling company. Yeah. If I just want to do acting, I probably should off.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so I do have respect for this, for the genre that we're in and for this, what so many other people would want that spot. So I'm going to work my ass off. Yeah. And I'm glad that I also never, like, that was about basically a year. That was 2015. And Hunter told me, never stop training. So that whole year I had been training, like getting in with Fit, getting in with Gold Dust, to the fact that no one wanted to help me because they're like, we don't want you to get hurt, because we were in such a big program with, you know, John and Miro. But I was like, no, because Hunter was like, trust me. He goes, no one's going to be like, you need to wrestle. And then one day Vince is going to wake up and be like, well, it's time for Lana to have a match. Let's do it. Yeah. He's like, you want to be ready. Yeah. And then I talked to Stephanie, and Stephanie's like, you know, at the very least, know how to bump. Like, know how to take falls, know how to take basic hits. And she's like, that's what he wants you to do. And so I just started training my ass off. And then I just didn't think it really resonated with the story of like, if I'm going to go on Total Divas and be like, yeah, I'm only doing this because Vince McMahon wants me to do it. I just don't think that's even interesting. Like, who cares? And you're going to be more of a heel. And I'm already like, in general, I'm a heel. So, which is fine. I love being
natural born heel over here.
Yes. But I do love wrestling. Yeah. And so it wasn't like a lie. Like, I love wrestling, and if this is what he wants me to do and it is a wrestling company, I'm going to work my ass off. Of course I'd rather manage, because that's what I'm great at. Yeah. But hey, you're the director. So.
What was kind of like your relationship with the fans at that point? Because it felt like people were like, what's happening here? I don't know if I like this. But then I think that there was a point that it did start to swing back the other way where people could see like, oh, you legit were putting in a lot of work. And I think people could see that like you do respect this business and you wanted to be out there. And obviously everybody wants to do a good job. Nobody wants to show up and be like, what's happening? But you get put in situations that you're like, just figuring it out.
Yeah.
But what was your like relationship with the fans during that?
I mean, it was really hard for me, really hard the first 2 years because I didn't get a lot of television matches. And for a bit, I was like really fighting to even get live event matches. And I will forever be very thankful to Michael Hayes because Michael Hayes, it probably was like 2017. And Vince was like, yeah, let her wrestle on live events. And so he started just booking me with Tamina on live events, even if we weren't on television. And I was just, this is where I really started to earn the respect from my workers and from the girls, because I think it also took a second because I think I got really pushed, and especially 2015 as like kind of wrestling more or not like, you know, just more female in the female locker room. And I think that people thought maybe I just wanted to not put the work in. And I think once 2017 happened and I was taking every comeback, like I would go on tour and 14 days straight I'm like, I'll take the comeback. Or if I was on the babyface, I will take the heat. Like I wanted to take the hardest part because I wanted to pay my dues. And I think after about a year of doing that, like I really earned the respect of, you know, like Becky Lynch and Charlotte, like these girls that Natty, these girls that were kind of the pillars of the locker room. And I learned so much from them. So then when I actually started having matches on television weekly with Naya, it was like, oh yeah, finally people had been seeing me, you know, what I've been training for so long, and it just takes time. You know, that was like probably 5 years then at that point of wrestling regularly, having live event matches. And you can't practice matches with no fans is one thing, but you have to be out there. And I just really fell in love with it. I think as a wrestler, I make a better baby face. Like selling comes a little bit better for me than unless they gave me bodyguards, because it's just not as believable. Like most of the girls are, you know, taller than me, stronger than me. So I felt like as a baby face, like was more of my niche as a wrestler. But as a whole, I think my niche, my sweet spot is a heel. 100%. So, and cool. I love it.
I always just find that stuff like fascinating though, because it's like, I feel like people are very quick to jump to something to be like, no, you don't deserve this, or you're not putting in the work for this. But it's like, man, there's so much happening behind closed doors, or like conversations you don't know, or situations somebody's put in.
But the truth is, like, I didn't deserve that. Like, that's the bottom line. There's a lot of us that, like, I didn't deserve that, but I did work hard. Like, I didn't deserve to have a singles match at Money in the Bank against Naomi. No, there's so many people that deserve that more, but like, that's show business, you know? Like, there's so many people. It's not always
like who's been waiting in line the longest. It doesn't work that way.
Like, once you understand, like, this life isn't fair, and it's just like people die out of the blue, and like car accidents happen. Like, once we accept, like, up shit happens and it's not fair, then it's easier. But it was hurtful because as a manager, they hated me because of choice, versus
and it's hard when you're so used to like being praised for something, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, what the when it like that turns for a second, you're like, oh my God, I was not ready for this. It can be like a real mind.
You want to be good. You want to be good.
Of course.
So that was definitely hard.